Hello and welcome to the first of these introductory videos for the DigiPlace Transnational Cluster on the 16th and 17th of June. These short videos are to give you the introductory material to each of the DigiPlace sessions. So thank you for taking the time to view these. Please make the effort to look at the complete set so that you're well prepared for the discussions we're going to have. This approach is designed to minimize the amount of one-way input we have within the sessions, keeping the time free for exchange between different participants and different cities on the content and the discussion points. So this first presentation just talks through principles for the meeting and just sets out the introductory points to set the scene for this cluster of sessions. One of the first things to note is that just to ask you to change your names when you come into the meeting on your Zoom name so that we know which city you're from and who you are. If you get into the meeting and you need to change it afterwards, sometimes that happens, particularly if you join from the meeting link, you can just go to the three dots on your picture or your video thumbnail and select the rename option and change your name through there. So please do that for each of the sessions you join. We'll remind you in each session to do that as well, but that will be helpful just so we know who we're talking to. So in terms of this cluster of sessions, we've broken it into 4 sessions across 2 days, each one lasting up to 2 hours as an absolute maximum. Some of them will probably be slightly shorter than that, to minimize sort of fatigue of being in video conferences, which I think a lot of us now recognize as something we never thought we'd experience to the degree we have. So I'll talk through each of these sessions in a little bit of detail in a moment, just to introduce those so you're clear what to expect. But 2 sessions on the first day, morning and afternoon, 2 sessions on the second day, same setup. So session 1 is really about kicking off phase 2 as a network. It's about getting us all understanding the same principles and on the same page about what we're going to do and how we're going to work. So we'll recap some of the URBACT methods, some of the URBACT principles, particularly including a few updates based on this change of working to a more remote working rather than a physical transnational meeting. We'll look at the plan, we'll look at the changes to our timeline and our working and how that affects the key outputs that we're going to put together. And crucially, it'll look at how we work digitally as we go through this phase. So it's really just a way of making sure we're all caught up and we're all understanding what it is we need to do and how we're going to do it. Session 2 will focus on the URBACT local groups, which is one of the key URBACT methodologies for working in a participative way at a local level. And the local group is your steering group and your working group within your city for this project. And the idea being that it's a collaborative group to help you co-produce your integrated action plan, which is the main output at the city level from the full time of this network. We'll explain how the groups work and how that fits together within the methodology and fits together within the plan. And there'll be a lot of interactive options within this workshop to be able to exchange with other cities and to look at good practice, hints, tips, and best ways of working, as well as potentially sharing and addressing challenges that you might be facing in your own city about creating an effective URBACT local group. Session 3 is focused on this thing called the IAP Roadmap, which is the Integrated Action Plan Roadmap. And this roadmap sets out effectively the route to your finished action plan. It's your local project plan for DigiPlace. It sets out what steps and stages you're going to go through throughout the course of the next couple of years to produce that final output of your integrated action plan. And so this is a session where we'll dig into the detail of what it is, how it works, how we're going to construct it together, and give you a good grounding and understanding what it is. There will also be, again, some interactive activities within this session to help explore that and understand how it's going to work and how it fits with your local context. And then session 4 is a city spotlight on Oulu, the city we were supposed to be hosting this meeting in, but due to the circumstances, we haven't been able to. But colleagues from Oulu will be talking about some of their work in terms of their digital program, some of their digital projects, giving us an insight into some of the activities and giving you a chance to talk to them about how things work in Oulu and what they've achieved, and also what they're struggling with. And they'll talk about some of the challenges, and they're looking for input on some of the things that they want to try and tackle as part of DigiPlace. So that's the 4 main sessions. That's how the meeting is going to be sort of structured in terms of content. In terms of how we make this digital medium work for us effectively, one of the things we've seen over the last few months is that building trust and rapport can be much more difficult in this way of working. And getting around that, visibility is really important. Actually making sure we can see people and we understand who we're talking to and have a sense of the person at the other end of your laptop, your PC, your tablet, your phone. What is it you're working with? Who is that person, rather than it just being another flat 2D space on the screen. So in terms of visibility, there's a couple of key things we can do to help that, and I'll ask you to do as part of this network. Add profile pictures to any profiles you've got. For any software or collaboration tools we're using, please take the time to add a picture, because it helps us understand who you are and what you look like. Even if we have met you before, there are others joining the project who won't have the opportunity to meet you face to face for a while. So having some sense of the person behind the text or behind the voice is really key. And linked to that is about using video as much as possible when we're on conferencing calls and in digital sessions. There are some situations where we understand it's not appropriate or it's not possible, but wherever possible, please activate that so we can get a sense as a group of who we're working with and who we're interacting with. That helps to build that trust. Think about some basic etiquette as well around online meetings. If you're in the middle of a session and you're not speaking, please think about keeping yourself muted to minimize background noise, things that might be going on around you, either in your office or in your home if you're still based at home. Consider using headphones or a microphone setup if you have them. Even the basic phone headphone sets often have a much better quality microphone than those that are built into laptops and PCs. So do think about that if you have that available. And linked to that, also consider your environment. If you're in a very large room or space without a decent microphone setup, even if it's just an office space, if it's something with a lot of glass, tiled floors, hard walls, you get a lot of reflection of sound, and particularly if you're sitting away from your laptop or your device as well, it can create quite a lot of echo, and that makes it more difficult for other people on the call to hear you, and therefore reduces the quality of your input sometimes, because people struggle to hear what's being said if people are talking in a very echoey space. So again, just think about that in terms of how you can minimize that, and think about headphones also reduces the chance of feedback by hearing back what's coming from other people and then playing it back through the speakers and creating that digital echo as well. So be mindful of those things just to try and improve everybody's experience and your own. Linked to that is just thinking about your setup in terms of how many people you have around a particular device. So a lot of people around one device or one laptop, when you're trying to work in an online space, can sometimes be more difficult. Particularly in terms of if you've not got a professional video conference setup, things like audio and video quality can be severely diminished when there's a group and they're all having to sit at a distance from a device, from a laptop or from a PC and webcam. The other thing is it also potentially limits the options for individual engagement in collaboration tools. You end up having to interact as a group rather than as individuals. So again, understanding there are circumstances where it may be better to join as a group. It allows you to have conversations muted with the people around you during the discussion, but quite often it can limit it. So it's just thinking about, if you have one person per screen, it can often make participation more balanced and more accessible. So just think about which is the best setup for you to cluster around a screen or to not. Some people don't have the choice yet, so they are forced to be one person, one screen. And that's the way we will be working for a while, but just think about it, but consider your own circumstances. So if it's not appropriate to have one person on one screen and it's more appropriate to sit with colleagues around the device, then do so. But just any decision you make about the setup you're using for meetings, and for our sessions in particular, just think about and do it deliberately. Don't just do it because that's what you've always done. In terms of then how we use these digital tools, the main things we're focusing on are the four here: Slack, Google Drive, Zoom, and Myra. Slack we've been using since before all the crisis started, from the start of the network, and that's working very effectively as a communication and particularly asynchronous exchange and sharing tool for conversations or discussion or sharing content. And we will continue to use that throughout the life of the project. We were pairing that with Google Drive as just a simple way to share documents. It's a way that all partners seem to have access to quite readily, and it's a better way of sharing larger files and documents than sending things through email the whole time. More recently, with the restrictions in travel and restrictions in working, we've been using Zoom a lot more, as we are today. And the latest edition, which we're bringing in, particularly for this meeting and then going forward, is Myra, the sort of whiteboard collaboration software. And we want to try and keep that to a core set of tools. We don't really want to be expanding out for a tool for every possible thing. We want to be able to keep it as simple as possible, but using things that enable us. And we will review which tools we're using as we go through. But as a principle, we want to try and stick with a core set and not be chopping and changing the whole time. Myra is obviously the newest one we've added to our set of working, and just a reminder for that before we get to the sessions on the 16th and 17th. If you haven't already done so, try, and you can do, please sign up for a Myra account. It makes it easier to add name and profile to your account, so that when we're working together on a collaborative space, we can see who we're working with, and we can see the names of the people we're working with and which areas they're working on. It just makes the whole process a lot easier to work. So if you can do that, please sign up for an account before we get to the meetings. And it will enable other features within Myra for you as well, to be able to save things and to have your own boards. If you can't sign up for an account for some reason, it's fine, it works without it, but it's much more helpful if you can do. And finally, the last barrier to some of this, which is true in digital working or otherwise, is some of the jargon that gets used. And URBACT has a lot, it's a big program of content, and there's a lot of acronyms. And these ones come up particularly frequently. And I just wanted to take a moment just to remind those who've been here before what they mean, and also those who are new to it, just to clarify the common terms that pop up that you might not have recognized. So IAP, Integrated Action Plan, that's the main product we create as part of the action planning networks. Each city creates their own integration action plan, and that's their main city output from this network, amongst a large number of other things, but that's the principal final output. ULG, URBACT Local Group, as I mentioned, that's the other key part of the URBACT methodology. And as I've said, during these sessions, we will have a session on both the integrated action plan and the roadmap for that, and the URBACT Local Group. So you'll get to understand those in detail. The other things that aren't so common but often get shorthanded in documents are LP and PP. So that's the lead partner for LP, which is the lead partner city, which in our case is the city of Messina. And PP refers to the project partner or project partners, so the other DigiPlace cities and the teams therein. And the final one is LE for lead expert, which is the role I perform, supporting the network and leading the network through. So they're just some key terms I wanted to make sure we shared, because I know there are documents that refer to those things, and there might be slides and other things that you'll see that have those things in. So I just wanted to clarify that, because that can sometimes be a barrier to joining in with some of these discussions. So thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to watch this introduction. Please do take the time to look at the others to make sure you're well prepared for the meetings. If you've got questions about things, if it's raised questions, talk to your local coordinator. They have the routes to raise questions in advance of the meeting to let me know the things that these videos have raised for people, and I will address those questions. And there is a chance for discussion around this content in the sessions. But please make sure you've at least gone through the core material beforehand, because it'll free up the time for the really meaningful exchange content rather than just the input. So that's great. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Cheers. Bye.